Institute, and I will know the assessment they are making as it relates to the barriers people face as women. But tell us, Hawa, are there some difficult challenges that you people, women in the armed forces, face? And how do you overcome such? What do you do?
Of course, there are some challenges we face, like leaving your family home and going out there. Some women are married with kids and husband.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving them is like you have two things to be thinking about. I'm not saying the men don't think about it,
Mm.
but the women will think about it more
Why
because
you think of it more than the men?
we are mothers.
Uh,
Because the women are mothers,
Yeah.
and they play a more crucial role in the home.
Mhm.
So their absence in the home creates some gap, and then they will also be thinking, and I got my unit to take care of. I got my unit
Mhm.
to mentor, and I also have my home. I won't forget about my unit, and I won't forget my home. So combining all these things, sometimes the stress in the field, like in the mission era, you have to keep guard. You have to work in the office. You have to do other things that your male counterpart will do.
so that one,
And
there's
then-
no discrimination.
No.
What the men can do, you can also do it as a
Yes,
woman.
no discrimination. And then you being a female, the females are not most of the time many in the mission, so it create that somehow loneliness for them because we need like more people, more female around where you can interact with,
Mhm.
and then we have that limitation, so it creates some, I don't really know how to say it, but it creates some vacuum. Like you want to see more female,
Mhm.
and you are not. Instead, the males are more.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I don't want to lie to you. We have this little fight among the males and female, but all in all,
What the
we-
fight is all about?
no, sometimes they just speak at you, female, and then you get stressed up. You like,
Okay.
if I were among my females, I don't think this would be like this. But however, we overcome it and we move ahead. And the job, like we always say, mission first.
Mission first.
Yeah, so we swallow every other thing and focus on the mission and move on.
Have you ever had the opportunity to serve in a peacekeeping mission, Hawa?
Yes,
Where were you and what role did you play there?
my first mission, I was in a place called Kida. I served as the
Kidai is which country?
in Mali, sorry.
Okay.
Kida in Mali. I served as the gender focal point. I was in Mali for like a year. In
A
Kida.
year?
Yeah.
Leaving your
In-
family back home?
Yeah. I
Wow.
was there. And then I worked with the sector commander. I served as liaison between the local women
Mm-hmm.
and the military in
Okay.
Kida. Yeah. We have a lot of trainings where we encourage them to do a lot of things. Like for example, if they are there afraid, because wherever there is war, people will always have
Mhm.
some other improper things going on.
Yeah.
Yes, so the women will always be afraid, and the women have to go on their farm, they have to go to market, and they have to go to other places. So basically, what the UN does, or what was our own role,
Mm-hmm.
was like ask the females, ask the women, what are some of the things you want the commander to know about, and they will tell you, so that when we get in our operation readiness or patrol,
Mhm.
you will bring that suggestion. Oh, I have so and so area that we as officers, or we as military can patrol, because this is where, or these are places that the women frequent, they pass. The women use this area to go, so the patrol will focus on those areas to protect the women.
Were you not afraid being a peacekeeper in the Nesman country? You're not very awkward with the territorial confines of the people, country, I mean the borders, and you are a woman just, out of 1 year, I'm just thinking.
If I tell you I was not afraid, I would be lying to you, frankly, because that was my first mission, and it was a very dangerous place. In fact, when I was in Bamako, everyone was asking, "Where are you going?" When I say Kida, they would be like, "What? You mean you go
That
Kida?"
trouble zone?
Yes. And then when I went Kida, I spent like 7 days. On the 8th day, we received an attack. It was terrible, but with God, I mean, it was
They said, I pray
okay.
for your children straight. Say, Mama, what pray on this Saturday?
But as a soldier, you were trained to do that. So I mean, it was okay actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will come to you later to know about the family background at the time, because once you are away, you think about the family too, and though they will worry about you.
Yeah.
But there's a group of this institution called Kofi Annan Institute where Prof. Sandy comes from. They are doing a research on the measurement of opportunities of women in peacekeeping operations in the world. Prof. Sandy, what have you found out? What is the objective and the outcome? What is the objective first? Let me know. What is the objective? Why do you want to help these women?
Okay, thank you, Jala, and it's really an opportunity to be here. Actually, we are a team. Major Hawa Kamara and I are a team for this purpose,
Okay.
and it's exactly to present this research measuring opportunities for women in peacekeeping operations with specific reference on the armed forces of Liberia.
Okay.
As we know, during our years of civil war, Liberia was referred to as the problem child in the whole sub-region.
Mm.
Today, that has turned full circle, that since the formation of the AFL, new AFL in 2006, Liberia now has become a peacekeeping contributing country.
Okay.
So this is a very huge turnaround from being the problem child in the region to now supporting peace operations, international peace operations.
So it
in
means
this-
that we have something to celebrate.
we do have something to celebrate. And as an institution, as an academic institution, as a research institution, what we have been doing over the years, we have been studying the security sector, not just the AFL, but our entire security sector. We have worked with all of our security institutions of this country. We have supported community security relations. We've supported even training for some of the security institutions, how to do research, ethics, operational coordination, lots of other things we've done to support all of our security institutions. So this research was a 1 year research on the AFL to measure what are the opportunities for women in peacekeeping operations, but what are the barriers
Okay.
that are limiting Liberian women. Like you just heard Major Kamara say, the amount of women they want in the mission, they don't have it. What are some of those barriers that are hindering women from being able to take? And these opportunities are there for Liberia, but we don't have the number of women who can take up these opportunities.
Okay.
So our research was to be able to say how do we measure those barriers? How do we identify those barriers? And like you asked about the objective of the study, of the research, the objectives are very, very clear and simple. We wanted to first measure what are opportunities for peacekeeping, and women's involvement for Liberia. We also wanted to provide a comprehensive set of issues areas. Those are the specific issues and the areas given the security of the AFL, how they could be improved and increase women's meaningful participation in UN peacekeeping operation. We also had an objective to identify some of the good practices within the AFL that can be leveraged and scaled up and or disseminated to other institutions, security institutions around the world. And the AFL, I can tell you, has practices which can be promoted worldwide.
Okay.
And those have been identified by other international research institutions with which we collaborated for this research.
Okay.
And when we finally launch this report, and we'll be coming to that, when we finally launch this report, it will be posted so that other institutions around the world can learn from some of the good practices of the AFL.
Yeah, before you go further with that, I want to know, when these women or the few women who are in the peacekeeping mission go in the mission and come back, when you're doing your research, did you talk to them and enlist their personal experiences, which has been inculcated into this research?
That is 90% of the research.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have been able to research 600 personnel of the AFL. 600, including both male, female, high ranking, low ranking. 600 personnel of the female were involved in this research. Like I said, over a 1 year period. Some of them who have been deployed into peacekeeping operations some of them who have not, some of them who are in preparation. It's a whole mix, it's a whole matrix that we have used. The other objective we also have was to apply a set of tools and a comprehensive list of indicators that measure the importance of each of the areas we were researching so as to enhance this meaningful participation of the AFL in international peacekeeping operation. Of course, we wanted to determine the differential impact of what is it to deploy women and what is it to deploy men in peacekeeping operations in all of the areas where Liberia is currently supporting peacekeeping operations. And I will quickly run to tell you, Jala, this has been a great opportunity for some of us because in addition to working with those 600 people over the 1 year period, we also were able to do research with specially selected public interest personnel, including some of the senior stakeholders of the armed forces and the Ministry of Defense, as well as other key decision makers on who make the AFL what they should be. We call that the fight funding form, the fight funding report. How do their involvement influence the kind of decisions that go into the kind of mission, how they are supported, what happened on the mission, and so on. So the other thing I would just like to quickly mention to you and our audience as they listen is we were able to identify 10 specific areas that we have dealt with. So I will pause there, and I'm sure Major Kamara will be working through this process to tell you what are some of the areas that we measure in this research.
Howard, can you please bring up the speed on that?
Yes, sir. Some of the areas where they talk about enough women in a national institution, that is our Mediterranean, whether we have enough women in a Mediterranean. Yeah, the eligible pool. That has to do with, I would say, are there enough women in a national institution? Talking about the AFL. And then we went down to deployment criteria. What are those criteria that are measured? Do they match the skill of the operations? And we went down to deployment selection. Does everyone have a fair chance to deploy? We should say yes. Everyone has a fair chance to deploy. Then we talk about the household constraint. Are there arrangements for family of deployed women? Well, for this, we have our own arrangement though. So, yes, we got arrangement for that. I call it.
Well, I don't think this we are going to put all our report and findings outside now.
So
but
just
at least to just list the areas that we use, for this research over this 1 year period, working with 600 AFL soldiers.
600 AFL.
600.
All women.
No, for
both
the
male,
survey.
women,
both.
male, female.
Were interviewed.
People who have been deployed in peacekeeping missions, who have not been deployed, some of them even in preparation, make up that total of the 600.
Wow.
Yeah, our pool for the research was 600.
Now, you say it's a 1 year survey.
We did this 1 year, not just a survey, this was a comprehensive research. Actually going
so
into
have you concluded now, or you want to
Yeah,
give
we concluded, and we'll be talking about the launch of this report. This is a big event.
So I want to know about the outcomes, because if you have done the assessment,
talk about the outcomes, but where the thing is, we want you to know what are the things we researched. Like she's saying, we wanted to know first the availability of peacekeeping opportunities that exist for women. Does Liberia have the number of women and the capable women to deploy or to fill those opportunities? We also wanted to know what are the criteria the AFL uses in selecting the women that they deploy in these missions.
The question you asked earlier, what would be the answer for that?
No, I got the answer in the report.
It's in the report.
And Jala, when you come tomorrow to the lunch, this will be a big event. I want us to we'll talk about that later. But we also look at the women who are being deployed. What are some of the household constraints they have that will either limit or support their deployment? We look at what was the other one, Howard?
Peace operation.
The peace operation infrastructure. When they go, what are some of the conditions they live under? You see, many times people just see peacekeeping as, whatever. And like she said, the most obvious is, well, there's danger in the place. Well, it's not just about danger, it's also about living conditions. What are the conditions? Sometimes these people live under harsh conditions.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, living on the tanks, for example, for a very long time. You're not living a luxurious home like your home here. Yeah. So those are some of the difficulties they face.
Okay, so we move to the next one I talked about. The peace operation infrastructure is accommodation and equipment designed to meet women's needs. Next. Okay. To the deployment advance women's career. The next we talk about was to leaders at all levels support women's deployment. Like Prof. Sandy said, all these questions will be in tomorrow's reports. At the City Hall, we will be there tomorrow.
And so this report is presented to whom?
Jala, you really want to eat into our thing, but I will give it to you now.
I'm eager, but other people said, so I just,
Okay,
sorry if I'm running ahead of you.
That's fine. We want to officially inform our listening audience and you that this big event is happening tomorrow, the 1 year research on the AFL, looking at measuring the opportunities for women in peacekeeping operations and what are the barriers that have been assessed for Liberian women to participate evenly in peacekeeping operations have been concluded.
Okay.
This research was undertaken with the Kofi Annan Institute and with support from the Gender Services Support Lab of Cornell University in the USA, the Democratic Control of the Armed Forces in Geneva, and several other institutions collaborated in doing this with the coordination of UN Women. So we want to give credit to all of the people who have worked through this process to bring this together. But what we see now is the report will be launched tomorrow, and Her Excellency, Madame Claire Marie Weir,
was referring to the female in the army. The other day I know she did a home for AFL wives. Yeah, AFL wives.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, not a home actually, but
a training center.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So she will be the chief launcher, and Her Excellency Chief Dr. Joel Howard Taylor will be the co-launcher, and Finance Minister on His Honorable Samuel Twer will be the second co-launcher. The Minister of Defense, the Chief of Staff, and several other stakeholders of the Armed Forces of Liberia and the Minister of Defense will be present at this auspicious occasion at the City Hall of Monrovia. So basically, those are the key factors around this, Jala, and we just want to know this study is not unique to Liberia. This study is an international study, and the AFL of Ghana, the Armed Forces of Ghana, the Armed Forces of Syria, the Armed Forces of Cambodia, and all of these emerging, Sierra Leone, all of them have gone through this similar research.
Okay.
And by the time we are completing our report, it will be posted side by side with other security institutions that have been assessed in these similar ways.
Okay.
We are very grateful that today we have an Armed Forces of Liberia and the security sector generally, where academics like us can go into their barracks, measure some of the situations, understand the conditions, do academic understanding of some of the issues, and are able to publish this. And they are doing this so that their weaknesses can be identified and mapping can be done on how to improve those weaknesses. We think this is the kind of democratic security we are aiming for. Have we arrived there? No.
Will we get there?
I'm hoping so.
Okay.
But I've been in this for the last 15 years, Jala. I've seen some progress, but I have to say I've seen some disappointments. But I'm not giving up.
So
This
in
is-
spite of the disappointments, you cannot give up.
I
But
will
there-
not give up.
there's an opportunity ahead.
There is opportunity ahead of us, and I think we should all forge for those opportunities. Today, we see that in the AFL. We would like to see that in other security institutions. We would like to see more coordination in security institutions. The other thing we just want to measure is that when we are doing a research like this, we are using an international tool. There have to be special ways to adapt these tools to fit our specific local conditions. And one of the things we have to do in adapting the situation was we started this research, we wanted 50% of the respondents to be male and 50% to be female.
And did
That
you
means
succeed
we
in
wanted
doing that?
300 women, 300 men. We could not succeed in doing that.
Why?
Because we could not find the exact 300 women.
But you
in
found the exact 300 men.
We found the exact 300 men.
And so then the
So-
question that comes again, that is that in your research, we're finding you want to know what is a barrier.
Yes.
What stops women from coming to the armed forces?
Yes.
And what did you find out?
Okay, we just said to you, these are the barriers that we found. Number one, because the amount of women that this selection should be done from is still small,
Okay.
the batch of women from which the selection should be made is still very limited. We need to increase that pool. And that's why, like when you said in your opening that you saw women lined up to be recruited, the AFL is currently doing a recruitment process, and they have committed, from what we understand, that they want of the 350, they want 50% of them to be male and 50% of them to be female.
Okay.
So, and they are doing everything to strengthen the chances of more women to be recruited in this process, so that that eligible pool, we call it eligible pool, can be broader. We also look at the kind of criteria, because some of these criteria are not set in Liberia, some of these criteria are set internationally. Because for you to deploy in a UN mission, the UN standards do not change because of your country. Your country has to go and elevate to the standard the UN has set for peacekeeping missions. So the deployment criteria, and that we are pleased that there are women in our armed forces who meet those deployment criteria. Somebody like Major Hawa Kamara and many others today are on peacekeeping mission, have met those criteria, and are encouraging and training other women to meet those criteria for deployment.
Yeah.
We also found that the way the selection is done, like anything, it's very easy to get carried away by whatever benefits there are or opportunities there exist. And then sometimes there can be pull and pull in the way this is done. So we checked on all of those. Is the selection criteria transparent and open? And yes, when you come tomorrow when we are presenting our report, we will be very clear about that, but we want to say it's satisfactory.
Now, before you go, in the same vein, some of the applicants will say to you that it is transparent, but sometimes the criteria that you place on a front burner gives us difficulty. So the man goes and you have to be a high school graduate, and maybe he has a high school graduate, but he can't find his papers. So it's difficult to enroll such a person. Did you find out in your research, was that a reason why maybe men and women fell prey of being enlisted?
Well, we are not in the research for enlistment. We are talking about those who are there now and how they can be deployed on missions.
Okay.
Because Liberia have had opportunity for a lot of missions, and those missions have passed by us. Those opportunities have passed by us, and we cannot get the women to fill up those missions. Liberia started deploying into peacekeeping operation. Like I said, we've turned around completely. We've gone from being the problem child.
The high boy.
Yeah. So from 2012, we started participating in missions. Liberia has deployed in Syria, Liberia has deployed in Mali, Liberia has deployed in South Sudan. Syria.
Wow.
Liberia has deployed in South Sudan, Liberia has deployed in Sudan. So these are countries that Liberia has placed peacekeepers.
Many times when you hear about deployment, you would just say it's in Malay, but we're not going to Syria.
No, it's farther than Mali.
Wow.
Yes. In fact, Hawa, who has been, Major Kamara, who has been on some of these deployment, would give us some highlight on how far Liberia deployment has been.
Okay, but let's hear from you quickly.
Before that, let me just talk on the 50%. He talks about 50% male and 50% female. Most of the females, what we observe or from our interview is that the training is kind of difficult and then the time is short. So what the AFL did, they launched this pre-recruitment training
Okay.
for only females. We had the females coming at the BTC to train for like 6 weeks if I'm not mistaken. Because what we realized that in basic training, the 4 weeks was not enough or is not enough to transform civilian female to that of military. So most females, like for me, that was some of the problem I had, because I realized when I left from the base, I spent like 3 weeks outside training on my own, and I was able to give the push-ups and catch up with the running. So I brought this to my commander, and she looked in it, and then she saw the sense in it. So we brought about this pre-recruitment training. We could continue on, but funding is not that easy.
So the pre-recruitment.
So those are some of the things that we brought about. So the professor, and then we are working on it.
The pre-recruitment is just for females?
Just for females.
Okay, to encourage them to stay.
To run, to push-ups, to do sit-ups and other things. And we noticed with that, it helps a lot. My time, it helped others. Because I was not the only female, other females were there. And then when we